Thank you for downloading this podcast from the British Theatre Guide. For more information about British Theatre Guide, please visit britishtheatreguide.info. 2024 marks 20 years since Just the Tonic first appeared as a group of venues at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe. Although founder Darrell Martin had been putting on shows at the festival since 2002 and started the company by running Sunday night comedy clubs in 1994. Just the Tonic now has comedy clubs in Birmingham, Leicester, Nottingham and Reading, and at this year's Fringe it will be hosting more than 190 shows in 17 performance spaces across 5 venues. I spoke to Darrell 2.5 weeks before the 2024 Edinburgh Fringe was due to kick off and asked him first of all to explain a bit about Just the Tonic and the philosophy behind the company.
It's really just an extension of me loving comedy when I was younger and wanted to get into stand-up comedy and being totally unemployable. In the recession of the 90s and started a comedy club in Nottingham on a Sunday night, realising that I could actually make a living out of running a comedy night as a way of getting into stand-up, and couldn't believe my luck and just kept on going at it because I didn't want to do a proper job once I discovered this little crazy world that I'd managed to get myself into. Yeah, and then it's a product of me. It's probably the biggest example of procrastination in the world, as I use it as promoting successfully as an excuse not to actually write any material for my stand-up. So 30 years on, I could look at these comedians and go, I wish I'd put a bit more effort in. But pretty much that's it. But it's been a long journey and I've enjoyed it. And so I run comedy clubs around the UK for weekends and a massive presence at the Ed Fringe. And that's kind of, there isn't really a philosophy. It's all based on me basically enjoying putting on shows, really, and my love of laughing.
Yeah,
I think that's and chaos and hedonism.
Well, it can be that chaotic if you kept it going as a business for so long, because it's your 20th anniversary just as a Fringe venue this year, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you're saying that, but I think people do like a bit of chaos. I mean, it might be. I think it's chaos within some order. So there is sort of, we managed to keep it all going, but I promote and try and book chaos. So my favourite acts are like the Phil Ellis's and the Johnny Vegas and the Kitsons and the Ross Nobles and people that are just where you can't say to them, go and do 10 minutes or 20 minutes. So you can't predict what's going to happen. And that's sort of, I think I would say that was my success in the early days, is that I encouraged chaos,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, and you certainly get chaos with somebody like Johnny Vegas, who you've been with for a long time now, haven't you?
Yeah. So, yeah, if you've got trust in the talent and just kind of almost put a structure around good talent and just go to them, you can do whatever you want. No one's going to tell you off. Then I think you get the best out of people.
Yeah.
But when you start kind of just trying to tell people what to do and give them time limits and stuff, it just clamps people down. So I started off as running my comedy club, not knowing there was rules on what you're doing and the structures to nights and things. Just kind of made it up as we went along. And so within that, making it up as you go along, you've kind of got room for people to come in and do what they want.
Yeah.
So it's quite, yeah. So I mean, yeah. So I kind of suppose, I mean, in the end, you have to. I mean, when I was first doing it, I had no sense of health and safety, so cram as many people as possible. I didn't care about licensing laws because it was never my venue. So we'd have, Matt Ford, who's now an act on the circuit, when I was in Nottingham, he was sneaking into the pub I was in on Sunday nights. He was 15 and 16, and there's another lady who now does stand up as well, who's a doctor, and he was coming when he was underage. And at one of the nights that we did, Ross Noble was comparing, and him and his mate got up on stage, and me and Ross Noble cut their hair live on stage. Ross passed the jar round, and we kind of raised some money to get this bloke's mullet cut off. He refused to have a mullet cut off, so we had a haircutting competition. These two lads got up, and they were just anonymous people, as far as I'm concerned. We were just cutting their hair, and it was hilarious. We were actually cutting it live on stage. It was mental. And then, it was just one of those stories that happened. And then many years later, I wish I could remember the bloke's name. If I was prepared for this, I could remember his name. But he does stand up. He's a doctor. He does stand up now. And I was just talking to him. I can't remember how, or I'd seen a post online or something, and it turned out that he was the bloke that had his hair cut. So I rang him up and said, I didn't know it was you. And he said he was still underage, so he started to go to school the next day, and he turned up at home with his hair cut off. And his mate got 80 quid each or something. They couldn't believe that, but his parents were mental. He was grounded for a month or something like that. it's good.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of ex-doctors going to stand-up, don't they? Like Harry Hill and...
Yeah. Well, Harry Hill did it years ago, but he never mentioned being a doctor, where there seems to be now doctors that kind of go on about being doctors.
Yeah.
And you kind of go, really? Like Paul Siller's a doctor.
Yeah.
There's Adam... Is it Adam Kay?
Oh, yeah.
There's loads of them. Yeah, there's loads of them. We had one a couple of years ago. But yeah, there's loads of them.
Yeah.
Stick to fixing people.
Oh, yeah, I wonder what it is about that, whether it's just a way out of being a doctor.
Yeah, maybe. I suppose they're the ones. See, this is my thing. When I started off doing stand-up, when I started doing Run the Club, people didn't have a career in mind. They just went off and did it, and there was a load of lunatics running around doing stand-up. Now, you've got sensible people doing it. For example, loads of doctors that are now doctors and go, I think I might do that thing I always wanted to do, which is being a stand-up. Yeah. Now, see, proper lunatics would have just done stand-up and not worried about being a doctor. These people you've got coming through now are too sensible. They've got themselves a career first, and now they're trying to do stand-up, and they're not the right people to be in stand-up. You need idiots doing stand-up. That's what I think.
So the way you started, it sounds a bit like when the Comedy Store started with people who were your heroes at the time back in the 80s.
Yeah, well, you can't. It wasn't really like that. I was into stand-up when I was at university in Birmingham in the late 80s. I'd sort of found a comedy club, and it was I was into stand-up. And when I was at Tech College and when I was 17 and lived in Basingstoke, I organised a coach other people to go to see Ben Elton at the Apollo. I don't know if it's called the Apollo then, but a big place in Hammersmith.
Yeah.
And organised a couple of other things. We also went to see Aladdin pantomime, and we were still absolutely hammered, and we were just heckling. Nora Batty was there, Keith Chegwin, and we were just heckling as they came, and we were thrown out. Hooligan 17-year-olds. Anyway,
Nora Batty's husband was my maths teacher, you know.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I like that connection between you and me. So I ended up going to this comedy club in Birmingham. None of my other mates wanted to were interested. So I'd go to this comedy club on my own sometimes drag someone else on, and I turned up there, and Alan Davies had just taken over from Frank Skinner as a regular compere. So Alan Davies wasn't famous then, he was just some bloke that was on stage.
Yeah.
And I remember watching him and just laughing my head off, and it felt like he was talking to us, an audience. He'd made it all up, and it was great. And then it was a real moment for me, because I walked backstage and I walked back to the toilet, and he was in the kind of like the hallway, and he was ticking off his checklist of material. And I realised then that he hadn't just made it all up, and it wasn't all just for us. And it hadn't really happened on the way to the gig. And I just went, and it was a real kind of moment. But I used to go to this comedy club loads, and then when I moved to Nottingham, there was no comedy about, and I just thought, and I wanted to get into it, and and I just didn't know how to get into it. So I'd worked in nightclubs, I went abroad teaching. I came back to Nottingham, started this comedy club. So, and I'd gone around London researching. I just went to watch some comedy nights, and bumped into Jojo Smith, who gave me a big list of his name, and then I started booking it, and these people weren't heroes or anything I was seeing, because the heroes were people that were bigger than the circuit act. So the heroes would have been like, I suppose at the time I knew who Eddie Izzard was, but he was off that level, and so I was booking people sort of blind, really, and just through word of mouth and through recommendations, and it just kind of grew out of that. So I was getting to see people like new that I didn't know. So every week was a treat for me. It was like I was at this club and I was booking these people up. And these people had never been to Nottingham. I didn't know who they were. I just had this list. And I, after a bit, I ended up on the phone to a woman, Debbie Allen, who's now a big agent, and she was working. I don't know if she was working. She was an agent at the time. She's now pretty massive. And she went through the list and said, book them, don't book them. That's a headliner, that's a support, that's a compare. And don't book them, don't book them. And just, so I then booked off this list, I booked all these people in. And so it all just sort of came together. And I kind of had a sense of how to run the club. And I worked so hard promoting it. I was out 4 nights a week, and every sort of Saturday and Sunday at lunchtime, motoring and flying around Nottingham City just to make this thing work. And then the Sunday night would appear, and these brilliant people would turn up that I'd never seen before. And so I was getting to watch these great comedians. So you think of people like Al Murray, like Sean Locke, Alan Davis, and I mean Alan Davis I knew of, but he did a tour with us. Felix Dexter, Phil Kay, and all these people in the first year, Adam Bloom, Ed Byrne, and they were just unknown at the time. They were coming through the door of this thing. It's unbelievable. And I was every Sunday night, get really drunk. For the first 3 months, I was losing loads of money, and just sort of I was living in a squat and doing teaching at a college, and so all my money was just being drained away in this loss-making business. But I loved it, and I was determined to make it work. So it wasn't booking my heroes, it was because they were beyond. Do you know what I mean? They were beyond what
out of reach. Yeah.
So there's now people that I can talk to normally as normal human beings that I just like the stars now that I've known since they were just open spots or 10-minute spots or 20-minute spots. But I still have that sort of that kind of starstruck thing. If I go somewhere, some like Eddie Izzard there, or that's what Lee Evans doesn't do anymore. But some of that was just beyond. Do you know what I mean? Some of that I would have been into, but I never knew as a person. I only knew as this this celebrity.
Yeah.
So there is that. I had this. Well, I drove a mate's band around years ago. Little Barry, I don't know if you know him, but they were supporting Paul Weller, and I'd been a Jam fan when I was younger. And I because I was involved in the world of celebrity and stuff, I thought I wasn't going to be starstruck anymore. But when I did the gig and Paul Weller was doing doing a run through of his set, so we had this sort of almost half a gig just for me and these blokes who I was driving around the van with. And Paul Weller walked past, and I thought, "Oh, it's Paul Weller." So I just went, "All right." That's all I could muster. Anyway, he's walked off, and that's all I could muster. And I'm probably the same as that with the celebrity stars that are beyond my. I think I'd be this. I went to Johnny Vegas' wedding and Paul Whitehouse was there.
Yeah,
and I had to do a best man speech. It was terrifying because Paul Whitehouse was there. I mean, he was one of them people as well. He's just sort of beyond me. Vic Reeves would be the same, I suppose. I think Vic Reeves and all that ilk, and the young ones, kind of the young ones, Alexis Sale, that were my era of comedy heroes, I think.
Yeah, there's probably different levels of that, because they're probably people that they get starstruck by that you wouldn't think they would, but the people above them as well, aren't they? Yeah,
I mean, I suppose there would be the Monty Python people above them, Spike Milligan. He's not around, but Spike Milligan was probably would have been like a starstruck person for me, and two Ronnies, I guess.
Yeah, Spike Milligan, I suppose, is that sort of chaotic comedian that you're talking about. I can fantastic. See if you're disappointed by seeing Alan Davies with a script, I can see why you ended up with people like Johnny Vegas and Ross Noble, who don't tend to stick to a script at all, do they?
Yeah, well, it wasn't. I think the word disappointed wasn't right, Alan Davies. It was almost like a
right
sort of thing.
A realization.
It was kind of like it was like right. It didn't really happen on the way here.
Yeah,
it was just. But he was so good at making it look like it happened the way. I mean, he was so good at storytelling.
Yeah.
That, I kind of went, but like I said, but I do prefer the chaos that comes with the unscripted. But the good ones, like Eddie Izzard, makes it look like he's not scripted. But I think most of the shows are a scripted. Was Ross Noble? He commented stuff for this weekend, and it was on fire, and it was so good. And afterwards, he did a bit, and I came off, goes, "Was that a bit, Ross?" And he went, "There was this brilliant thing about Tom Jones, and he was singing. It's not unusual. And he was doing it. It was so funny. It was so funny. Like I said, that's got to be a bit, Ross." And he went, "Well, I've done it twice before. It's an incredible bit. He was singing. It's not unusual, but changing the words a bit. He was going, I've done it before, but the singing a bit. I only made up today. I was on stage. I thought about doing it. So and the pauses that looked like pauses for laughter was me trying to work out what went next in the song. He said, I didn't get it quite right. And I said, well, no one knew. But I know, but I knew it wasn't right. And he'd only done it twice before. And it looked. Any other comedian would just die to have had that material. And he just grown it over. And I said, did you think about it between the gigs? And he went, no. He said, if I think about it between gigs, it loses magic. The magic for me is because I'm up there, it's making my brain go on fire because I'm trying to think of it. It keeps me going. And that was a real revealing thing that I kind of realised then that he allows himself to get himself in a real risky situation to keep his brain firing. Yeah, that was a real moment. I spoke to Ross quite a lot about what he does with his material, and that was the first time I went, oh right, buddy, because that's whenever I'm comparing, I'll kind of, if I do something, I'll go to a safe bit to get out of it, whereas he would just try and take it to the next bit to see where he can test his brain because he's so quick. Anyway, I'm waffling now.
No. So you started a club because you wanted to be a comedian. How long after you started a club did you actually pluck the courage to get up on stage yourself?
Well, I kind of do this thing where I think the first I had regular bookings of regular companies. Sometimes I'd pay in a headline act more, and I'd just think, I just introduced the acts, not that important. And I would go on and go, hello everyone, this is the first act. And I convinced myself I was going to try and do a joke.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't do ages. And the problem for me was that I was a real piss taker growing up. When I grew up in Basingstoke, I was a horrendous piss taker. And that piss taking, I would just turn on myself. So I was just, I was my own worst enemy, really. And just, you dickhead, you know. So I just didn't know myself to do it. And it caused me real sort of, I was really anxious about doing it. And then I think I'd have these conversations with acts. One of the other good things about my club was I was a real hedonist. And so it'd be a Sunday night in Nottingham. It became notorious because we'd have lock-ins in the pub because the manager was addicted to speed. And so he was quite happy to stay up till 7 a.m. drinking and that. So access to his pint. And then we'd go back to my house, or we'd just go back to my house and have a big drinking session. So I'd have all these conversations with comics. And Adam Bloom told me about some course that was in London at Jackson's Lane. And he said, you should go and do this. Go and do it because, you know, you have a go. So I ended up, it took me 2 years to properly go and actually get the bottle I went into this course. Susan Murray was on it. I think she's the only person on that course that's still doing stand-up. And it gave me a reason to write in the safety of away from, you know, you got to imagine that I was in a town where I'd be night flying.
Yeah.
So everyone that would come into that club, I would have seen in a pub, because the only way to advertise at the time was flying and putting posts up. And so I was physically going around sort of talking people into coming to this club. And then to actually have them turn up and for me to be on the stage and being rubbish was so scary. So I just didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
So it took me, and once I did start actually doing it, I mean, I was writing being that scared. There was one evening when I was going around a pub, and I chucked this pub, and this pub was literally down the road from my house. Chucked this flyer on his table, and this bloke picked it. Well, no, Just the Tonic. I went there last Sunday. All the acts were great. And he looked at me and said, except for you, because you were shit. I just went, oh, right, okay. Admittedly, I was shit. But, I put all this effort into it. I really knew I'd put it. And the other thing was that I had such good acts that it was really hard to not be shit in comparison. You think I've got a poster and it's got like 1 week's Al Murray, 1 week's Johnny Vegas, 1 week's Russ Noble, 1 week's Ed Byrne. I mean, and you've got lineups that, and how can you not be shit in comparison to these people that were great in it? So I ended up doing stand-up, and then I entered competitions. I was in a final in '97 in Edinburgh Festival, and I messed it up. I really messed it up. And should I tell you how I messed it up?
Go on then.
It's quite a funny story. So I was in a fight. Paul Foot. It was a year when Paul Foot and Peter Kay were winning everything, and Paul Foot won this one, and it was the Daily Mail for Michael Ward, and I decided I'd do an opening thing, and I was working for an agent at the time, and one of our acts didn't really understand my material, and it was this very tight scripted routine about being metaphysically abused, because you know, like a comedian guy, you know, there's this old cliche that, you know, people bullied as a kid and they got to try to be funny. My thing was, because I'd done philosophy at university and wanted to use it, and my thing was that I wasn't physically abused. My dad was an armchair philosopher. I was metaphysically abused, and I did all this really clever sort of, which was really clever stuff about philosophy. But I kind of just talked like a normal bloke, like I was a bloke down the pub. Yeah, and I was doing philosophy, and in good clubs where they had good comedy literature audience, it was great. But on a Saturday night in a jonglers environment, I thought it was never going to work, and I just wasn't aware of this. Anyway, I had this routine and this act that was really taken. I don't really get it. I don't understand this. Now, it's got me here, and I'm going, no, so I changed all this material around, which cocked it up during the thing. But also at the beginning, I was going to go on at the beginning of the competition. I really wish I'd done this. This is my one regret. And this is my thing where I say, don't ever listen to anybody else's advice, because only you know what you want to do, and only you know what you're capable of. And I wanted to go on and go, oh, it's really good to be in this competition. It's a bit weird being judged there, because I always think who judges the judges. And I just wanted to say Caroline Aherne, great characterisation as Mrs. Merton, 7 out of 10. Charles Foote, who was a writer for Daily Mail, great articles, 9 out of 10. There was another one there, I can't remember what it was. No, 7 out of 10. Gary Bushell, what a cunt, right? And I think that would have got a massive laugh. I think Gary Bushell would have laughed, and I'd have done what I wanted to do. I didn't think I was going to win anyway, and I just thought it was a real stamp, you know, really showing your balls, and I got talked out doing it, and I ended up doing this shoddy, like pathetic. All nervous. I'm like, I've got it on video, and I dread to think of anyone ever putting it on YouTube. And I'm just like this nervous 25-year-old bloke, you know, white Perry t-shirt, just going, talking through this material that I've just bodged up, and it's awful. Anyway, so I did that, and then I supported Johnny Vegas on tour, supported Ed Byrne on tour, and then was doing all right, and then kind of had kids and had to kind of work out what else to do properly. So I stuck to promoting, and I compound my club sometimes. That's kind of it, really. Yeah, it sort of fizzled out for me.
Yeah, I suppose when you've got kids, you've got to think about not running a loss-making business all the time, haven't you?
Yeah, well, it's time-consuming promoting. It's also time-consuming doing gigs because you're traveling for 2 hours to do 20 minutes. And to be honest, I knew how dedicated the good comics were and how much effort and work they put in, and I didn't believe in myself enough to think that I wasn't just going to be a 55-year-old bloke ringing around people like me trying to get gigs and having miserable weekends in hotels the other side of the country and never keeping a relationship and getting divorced all the time.
Yeah.
So I just sort of, it's a young man's game being a comedian, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't have the confidence in myself, so I started promoting.
I would imagine the chaos that you're talking about that you like, it's got to be a bit more reined in for Edinburgh because you've got so many shows in a day and you've got audiences who need to get onto the next show in their program. So
I mean, it's obviously a lot different. I mean, we can allow that to happen in the late night shows when you kind of got no time limit on. But venues in Edinburgh aren't chaos. You're not going to come in and be standing around for 2 hours because someone's overrunning. It's not that. I only said that at the beginning because that's what it was based on. But it's obviously I have to structure it and we have quick turnarounds between shows and have it all start and start moaning at people if they overrun. Have silly policies that if we charge £100 if you overrun 3 times in a row, which we never ever actually do, but it's just So we've got all these, it is all organised, and it's not like you're not going to turn up and then you've crammed in 200 people into 100 capacity room because I don't care about health and safety anymore. I'm 55 now,
yeah,
and I don't want to get done for manslaughter when people can't get the fire exits. Yeah, it's not chaos. It's not chaos anymore. It's fun.
Yeah,
it's still fun. And I try and keep the bars cheap, which it helps out the fun. So that's the bit we're allowed to do.
Yeah, you sound on the Just the Tonic website. You say you're not one of the big boys, but you've got 17 performance spaces and 6 bars in 5 venues in Edinburgh. So you are quite big. So what does actually set you apart from the other big boys like the Assemblies and the Pleasances?
The main thing that shows that sets me apart is that I don't change my editorial for 10 years. I probably wrote that 10 years ago. No, that's a joke.
Right.
That's my little joke. So you see why I didn't do stand up. I don't think I'm quite as corporate as others. If you sat on a Zoom call with us all, you'd think I just walked in from the market to try and sell a box of potatoes to these people that are, it's all very la-di-da and it's all very very middle class. And I think that we're kind of not really. We try and keep my costs down for the performers. And I think some people would say I'm too expensive, but that's because they go to the Free Fringe and anything's expensive compared to the Free Fringe.
Yeah.
We don't kind of bolt on hidden costs or. So I'm quite open in what everything costs for people. I don't know. I don't. It's difficult to say because it's difficult to see how you are in terms of other people. Because like you say, I've got 4 venues and 17 performance spaces. In my mind, I'm not like I'm kind of comparing myself to walking up to George Square and the gardens up there and it's all very clinical and corporate and loads of sponsorship money and they've got big teams of production and it's all a big well-oiled machine, whereas ours is not like that. It's not a big team. We've got no sponsorship money. It's not slick and it's just a few of us holding it together so we can keep our costs down. I don't think of myself as being one of those big people because I'm not. They're definitely in a different league, those big 4 venues. Just the way they operate and who they work with. They work with the university and stuff. So when I first came to Edinburgh, I'm going off the track a bit, but you'll see where I'm going till I get to the end of it. The Ed Fringe was kind of like, to me, was Cowgate, Gilded Balloon, Pleasance Courtyard, and those venues were like the big venues. They were like the big, which is what the Ed Fringe is. And I always, once I started the venue, I just felt like this. Oh, I've got two rooms at the Cafe Royal over, which is now the Voodoo room. I don't know if you know Edinburgh, but it's over. Yeah. So and then you kind of move about a bit, and you get slightly bigger. But I can't get that out of my head that to me, Pleasance Courtyard and Gilded Balloon, and then slowly Underbelly, but really, and the Assembly was always a bit posh and was on George Street and was never anywhere I went to.
Yeah.
So this to me was the Fringe, and I was just sort of like a chancer having a go, like a young pretender, just sort of sticking his nose in and couldn't believe he was getting away with taking the shows on and putting on the cheap venue at the Cafe. Everything was cheap. We did it all cheap, made and acts were going away actually making money. It wasn't costing much.
Yeah.
And that was what my whole thing was. And it was only when I think about, this must have been just pre-Fringe, pre-pandemic, someone emailed me and I said, you can have a slot. And they went, that's great. I've been coming to Ed Fringe all my life, and I've always gone to Just the Tonic, and I've always dreamt of playing Just the Tonic. And I kind of went, all right, that person is now 30 but for them, I was always part of the Fringe. Just the Tonic was always part of the Fringe, because that person was me when I turned up in 1996, whatever.
Yeah.
And they'd seen Just the Tonic, and so you then go, oh right, yeah. It's so hard to perceive yourself. Do you know how you're perceived by the people? So I don't see myself as being anything, but there's probably loads of people that just go to bloody corporate. Yeah, it's difficult to know. But saying that, Gilded Balloon is just Karen Cohen and the daughter running it.
Yeah,
they're quite small, independent. So I'm not, they're not posh boys. Yeah. It's a different financial level they're all on though.
Yeah, like the Pleasance and Underbelly have now got presences in London as well, haven't they?
Yeah. So the Pleasance had the thing in London for years, hasn't it? But the Underbelly kind of, they're just very, very well off anyway, aren't they?
Yeah.
Money is a magnet for itself, isn't it? So, and they're a fully charged, massive magnet. I won't say anything else. Get to know them.
But a lot of people have been saying that the last few years, certainly since COVID, that it's getting too expensive in Edinburgh. I know I found that it was 2 years ago when I was last in Edinburgh, and everything was expensive, particularly the accommodation. So how's the Fringe feel now? Is it recovering from COVID, or is there other problems?
I think last year I'd say it recovered.
Yeah.
In 2022, we all thought it was going to be a big bounce back, and it wasn't. People were still nervous of going out.
Yeah.
And there was also the bin strikes, which I'm hoping don't happen again this year. There was train strikes, and there was just a mess.
Yeah.
And there was also the fact that a lot of the venues had kept on to. We didn't do this. So when 2020 came, all the deposits for the shows I gave back and just released everyone from their contract to us. So because I didn't want to, if I went under, I didn't want to take people's personal money with me. So I just kind of went, here you are, see you again. But I know other venues kind of kept on to things, and they said, we'll roll it over.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to be spending it. So I didn't have these, but there was loads of shows that were kind of almost tied in to come back. So you had all of those, and you had the people that wanted to come anyway for the last 2 years. They hadn't been able to come. So you had this massive bulk of shows going on. So it looked, if you were a Fringe society, because they don't actually produce shows, even though they say that everyone thinks they're the Fringe, they don't take any risks. Oh yeah, we've had one of the biggest years. It's a big bounce back, and you go, well, let's wait and see.
Yeah.
And then the audience people were just still nervous about coming out, and it was true across my clubs and everything. People were still nervous, and it took ages to go away. And I think last year was a bit more like it, and everyone had a good year last year. Because I did think if last year didn't work, it would be doomed. But last year was good. And this year we've got loads of shows on, and there are loads of shows about, and it is looking healthy. And I'd say it's a really good lineup for not just for us, but for all of the venues. But like you say, accommodation, that is the problem, and that problem has been caused by the Scottish Government. No other reason. It's the Scottish Government that have put a limit on short-term lets in Scotland. So landlords can't know when, they can't say to people you can only have this accommodation for 9 months or 6 months. So there was loads of people living in flats for 9 months, and then they get booted out, and then they rent them out for the festivals and stuff, which sounds out of order, but it was only really affecting student accommodation.
Yeah.
So you'd have all the student accommodation so the landlords would go, right, you can be here for 9 months, I want you out in June, and the students have to find something to do in June. But now, so all of that, so now the landlords have got to go, right, you can sign this, but can't kick you out at all. So they can contact all the students in February and go, think you can go out? They can go, I don't know, or they can ignore it. And so that stock's been taken off the market. That stock was never going to be in sort of affordable housing, which is what the policy was supposed to do. And so all these students, so the landlords are going, right, okay, well, we'll just charge the students for 12 months now then. So the students are paying more money. The stock is not released for the Fringe. It has absolutely no impact on the housing issues in Edinburgh. It's caused all of the accommodation have to go up because now the things that are available, there's such demand for them, they can just charge ridiculous fees.
Yeah.
Nothing, But I think it will. I'm quite confident that over the next couple of years it will sort itself out, because I think the council interpreted the rules as harsh as they possibly could, made it difficult for everyone. I think they're now sort of trying to step back a bit from it and unwind it a bit. But I think it will be those things that sort of settles down over the next few years. But I mean, the issue is this festival and all the festivals in Edinburgh have grown up, in a little ecosystem, which includes accommodation, and the government has just come and smashed part of the ecosystem part. So things are bound to be affected, aren't they? It kind of takes a while to evolve to the new. It's supposed to be like climate change. Ed Fringe are going through climate change. Yeah.
But so far, the bookings, the visitor numbers are looking like...
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about ticket sales and stuff because over the years, it's become more and more Scottish-based audiences.
Yeah.
When I was first coming up, that last weekend, which is always the bank holiday in England, was the busiest weekend because basically the English weekend, people come up for the English bank holiday weekend. That doesn't happen anymore. That's the quietest weekend now. It's really weird. I don't know if it's bad marketing by the Fringe Festival, not telling people in England it's on.
Yeah.
But they should be telling people that there's this great festival on in Edinburgh that's unrivaled around the world. Why not come over for bank holiday? And I don't know what marketing they do I don't know what the marketing they do at all for the Fringe Society. One of my beefs with the Fringe Society is that it's probably one of the worst marketed festivals in the UK, and it's the biggest arts festival in the world, and yet you wouldn't know it's happening. It's unbelievable to me.
Is there any sort of crossover between the venues you run in Edinburgh and your round-the-year venues? Is there some cross-fertilisation between them?
Yeah, I mean, a bit. I mean, some of the acts we get for big value come from there, but they're definite, separate, distinct things because my clubs during the year are kind of just a stand-up, and it's Saturday night, 4 acts, one's a compere, 3 comedians, and I think if I was a bit more of a sinister sort of a booker, I'd only play my clubs if you do my Fringe venue. But I don't like that kind of arm twisting, and I think I'd end up with no one doing my clubs. So I don't do any of that. So there isn't really. I mean, they're two separate things, but no, they don't really. I mean, I in Edinburgh, I see people that I feed then into the clubs, and during the year, I meet comedians that I can say, "Do you want to come and do Ed Fringe?" But any comedian knows that Just the Tonic there in Edinburgh, so they don't need me telling them. But there probably is people I'd see, and I might go or come up, and I'll take a punt on you, and so yeah, there is cross fertilisation. It's a very long way to get to that answer. Yes, the answer is yes, there is.
Right.
But it's probably not how you might expect. But it's more to do with the the sort of personal contacts that are made that feed into each other.
Yeah. So you have a mix of up and coming comics and experienced comics.
Yeah. One of the things that used to annoy me is, and it annoys me just in the stand-up world as well, is that you, as a comedy club promoter, you'd be putting on acts might be booking them for 5-10 years, and people come and see them and no one knows who they are.
Yeah.
Something will happen in people's career and they'll get a bit of success. And then as soon as that happens, they'll bugger off to the local art theatre and do a tour there. And you go, well, that art theatre's got no more seats than my comedy club, and why don't you let me have it? And they go, agents wanted me to see in a more professional environment. And you go, well, that helps me because I've paid you for the last 10 years, and yet there's one time where I can put your name in the poster, it means something. Someone else has got it, and they've done nothing to support you and nothing to support comedy. And that happens loads. It's really infuriating. I kind of get over it now. It used to make me really angry. But you annoy me in Edinburgh when you don't go, I paid you for 10 years. Now you do an Edinburgh show, and you've gone to, I won't say any other venues' names, but other venues are available, Just the Tonic. And it used to really annoy me, but you're just going to go, it doesn't matter now. But it used to really bother me because I think, well, I've supported you as a comic. And now you're coming to Edinburgh, and I've kind of been part of your journey getting to Edinburgh. As only one of many acts that book, one of the many venues book you, but I happen to be a venue that's in Edinburgh as well. And you've gone somewhere else. But normally that's agents getting involved. And also it's egos of comedians. They kind of think they need to be seen in the President's Courtyard or here and there. Same with all those posters around town. You have all these huge posters around the city centre. And I'm pretty sure the only person that notices those posters really is the person whose face is on them. So, wandering around going, oh yeah, I'm at the Pleasance Courtyard, and that poster's cost you £600.
Yes.
How many seats is that you have to sell?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're Al Murray, then it's worth doing. But that's a famous person.
Yeah.
And that person, I'll go and see them. But if you're a nobody, it's not worth spending money on those posters.
Yeah.
Anyway,
in a 20-seat venue or something.
Yeah, I know. It's a shame.
Yeah. What you were saying reminded me. Have you seen Broadway Danny Rose, the Woody Allen film.
No, I haven't. No, I might have done him.
It's a black and white film. He's a theatrical agent who has all these really odd acts, and one of them makes it big, and of course then goes to a big agent straight away.
Yeah, I know that feeling. I was an agent for a while, and I'd really had really quirky acts, and so I had Will Hodgson, Josie Long, Stephen Carlin, some other people, and all these quirky acts I couldn't get in to do. Like, they weren't Saturday night. I mean, Josie Long was never a Saturday night comedy club person. No. Will Hodgson wasn't. No matter what I did and how I tried to talk to them about changing, so they didn't fit. And I kind of realised that I was kind of, it's a little bit quirky. Josie Long sort of bounced above comedy clubs, and we were touring her. But I kind of went, I'll get someone mainstream. I won't say names because I'm not bitter about it anymore. But I was a bit pissed off at the time. I won't say it was, but I took on somebody who was totally mainstream. It would be brilliant, and got him loads of gigs. When I took him on, his diary was empty. And then when he actually left me, I was able to ring up the Comedy Store, and they would open up the diaries so they could get him in, because he's booked up for the next 6 months. They go, well, we'll book him in. I go, yeah, you're not going to get in. So they would open up their booking diaries, and I could get him in. The diary was completely full. And then, I gave him sort of favour rate at the Ed Fringe. Really helped, I thought was good in his career. I got involved with a good agent that was good at television. They were doing really well together. So I wasn't selfish trying to keep myself. I was thinking of the acts. And then I got a text message saying, it's not working out. He'd had the big word in the ear, the big carrot, the promise of going to get you on this and get you on that, and I fucked off to a big agency, which happens all the time. And at that point, I thought, I do not want to do this anymore. I've had enough of this, and because you end up managing acts that you do for some comedians what you wouldn't do for your own children.
Yeah,
and I just thought, I've got my own kids. I don't need this shit anymore. I just stopped doing it.
Yeah.
Sort of just fizzled out, and I just went. But then after a couple of years, I think Will Hodgson. I think I texted him and said, "Oh, blah blah blah." Something. He said, "Well, you're still a manager." I said, "I'm not your manager, Will. I don't manage anything. I haven't spoken to you in 2 years. I don't want anyone else to be my manager." And I went, okay, well, I'm still your manager, but I'm not doing anything. And he went, okay, all right. I had a really good relationship with Will. Yeah. So that was my story, like your Woody Allen film weeks ago. Yeah. Thanks, but no thanks.
Should probably finish by talking about what's actually on for your 20th anniversary of Just the Tonic at the Fringe. What's the highlights of the programme? Well,
obviously, it's easy for me to say the big name acts that everyone knows of, like Jim Owen, Craig Hill, Andrew Maxwell's coming loose for his first year. Connor Burns I think it was his second year with us last year. It might have been his first year, but he sold out every ticket last year, and he ended up doing 5 extra shows in the 100 capacity room he was in, then 3 extra shows in the 300 capacity room, and he's just selling loads. He's brilliant. He's one of those people that can be massive.
Yeah.
Adam Bloom, who's he's not old school, but he was in the first 3 months of me booking my club in Nottingham, and he's the one who told me to do a stand-up course. I managed to talk him into coming up to Edinburgh for the first time in 13 years, I think.
Wow.
I've been hassling him for 8 years to come up and do another show. But he's also written a book on being a stand-up. I've got it here, actually. I can tell you what it's called, so I can plug it for him. Any comedian listening to this will know what it is. And I can't believe it. I can't remember it. It should be listed on my tongue, but it should be on the show. I've been taken. Oh, there it is. It's called Finding Your Comic Genius. And he started doing courses on it, sort of like specialised seminars on it. He's doing a series of those with us while he's up here. So that's quite exciting. But then there's it's a very difficult question for me to answer with that, because when I'm programming the festival, I'm starting in February, and you're now talking to me in July.
Yeah.
And I've gone through so many shows between now and then, sort of going yes, no, oh yes, and then they go somewhere else or whatever. So there's a big churn around of people, and it's not like I just sort of book them and then go, right, let's move through the program and see who got on. When I put the phone down to you today, I'm going off getting a van, picking up a load of chairs as we start setting up the venues and stuff. And I don't really sort of stop and go, right, what's on until the Fringe starts, because we're so busy with everything. So for me to remember the people that I was booking in February and March now compared to everybody else, it's just like I kind of go, and if I started listening off the names that I can just remember, it's not really very fair on everybody else, is it? So it's difficult for me to do that properly. If I actually had a few days off and I can read through, I remember that. Oh yeah, I saw that clip. That was brilliant. I saw them do that. That was great.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to our late night shows though. We've got late night shows in the big cave that we're producing with a group of people, and we've got an 11 o'clock sort of mixed bill stand-up and cabaret show, and that sort of merges into a thing at 12:30 or 1 in the morning called the Big Gay After Party. And it's literally what it says it is, and it's got this sort of really camp host who's going to get everyone going and dancing about. I'm just looking forward to having some chaos in the place, in the caves, in the caves bar. So I'm quite looking forward to that, just for the messiness of it. But for individual shows, look online. All shows are good at Just the Tonic.
Yeah,
I can't really. I don't want to plug things that I don't want to favour anyone over others, and I don't want to just pick on the shows that I'm self-producing, because that would annoy me. One of the things you know, at Soho Theatre, we produced Josie Long for years on tours, and you go to Soho Theatre where she was on, and all the posters in the foyer and up and down the stairs were all shows that they're producing themselves. So you go, where's my posters? Oh, well, there are shows here, but you should be promoting, you should be giving more to me. You should be giving more to the external shows than your own, because this is clearly unfair. You know, you've got this space here, you're promoting your own productions. You should be helping. No, that's not how we operate. It's like this. So anyway, so from that experience, I don't want to go come and see these ones that I'm producing myself either. So I'm almost shooting myself in the foot. I'm just trying to be fair that all the shows are good.
Right.
They're all good. Right. I'm looking forward to Now Brown, a new supporter.
That was Darrell Martin, founder of Just the Tonic, which will be hosting more than 190 shows across its 5 venues during the 2024 Edinburgh Festival Fringe. For more information about its Edinburgh programme and to book tickets online, see edinburgh.justthetonic.com, or you can also book at www.edfringe.com. You can see what's on at the other Just the Tonic venues around the UK and book tickets for them at www.justthetonic.com. You've been listening to a podcast from British Theatre Guide. For more information, please visit britishtheatreguide.info.